What do you think would happen if a self serving, power hungry, thirsty, pick me type female gained judicial power? I will tell you a lot of messy and unnecessary drama. This video is about Fani Willis and her many complicated and very unprofessional slash low key illegal situations and entanglements. What's going on, YouTube? I am a stone faced ape. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a lot to talk about. Please like, please subscribe, as it does wonders for small channels like my own. But enough of the formalities. Let's dive into the laughably messy story that is District Attorney Fani Willis's life as a lawyer. So, if you're like me, you understand that reality does not exist in a vacuum, meaning everything that's happening today is a direct result of something that happened yesterday. With that being said, I want to start from the beginning so that we can get a clearer picture of who Fani Willis is as a person, because a lot of the shit she would go on to do needs some kind of explanation, even though I feel like her background is really gonna result in more questions than answers. So, Fani was originally born in Inglewood, California in October of 1971, but she relocated to DC when she was in the first grade. Fani spent most of her childhood with her father, John C. Floyd III, and her father was a founding member of the Black Panther political party, which is a faction of the Black Panther Party more concerned with creating change via gaining political power as opposed to all out revolution. And at one point, he even held the position of chairman within that organization. John was also a defense attorney himself and would often take Fani along with him to court on the weekends. Being a member of the Black Panther movement, John Floyd was very anti establishment, obviously. He states that he never once called the police while growing up in Inglewood and instead viewed the police as an occupying army as opposed to an entity designed to help his community. He even believes to this day that the government played a crucial role in the death of Malcolm X. But despite being so anti government, John still encouraged his daughter Fani to fulfill her dream of becoming a prosecutor. And like I said earlier, her background may result in more questions than answers because I find it very interesting how anti establishment her father John was, given how Fani's career would pan out. Whereas John dedicated his life to fighting the man, Fani would go the complete opposite direction and become the man. I'm talking abuse of power, corruption, and all of that, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Also, side note, Fani's father John has been romantically linked with renowned activist, communist, and former vice presidential candidate Angela Davis. Yes, that Angela Davis. Fani's dad dated Angela Davis, which is absolutely crazy to me, but it does let us know that Fani's dad has been deep in the revolution for decades. In 1989, Fani graduated from Regina High School, which was an all-girls Catholic school in Maryland. She then went on to study political science at Howard University 1 year after Diddy left Howard. Coincidence? Almost certainly, but I do find it interesting to think about what the experience was like to go from a predominantly white all-girls Catholic high school to a co-ed HBCU. Maybe her thirst for male attention blossomed at this transitional period in her life. Who's to say? Either way, Fani graduated cum laude in 1993 and then went on to get her Juris Doctor from Emory Law School in Atlanta in 1996. She met her ex-husband, Fred Willis, in Atlanta during this time. He was working as a videographer, and Fani said he had really nice legs, which is kind of weird to me because I have never heard a girl say she was attracted to a man's legs, but I digress. Fani states he is the reason she initially stayed in Atlanta. They wed that same year in 1996, but were divorced just 9 years later. But with her education complete, her time to act a goddamn fool in the Georgia legal system had finally arrived. And boy, let me tell you, this is where things start to get downright diabolical. So obviously, as a lawyer of roughly 20-ish years, Fani has had an innumerable amount of court cases. For the sake of brevity, I'm only going to speak on the most interesting ones and the ones that help advance the narrative I'm trying to push because it's my fucking video. So Fani was a prosecutor for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office for 16 years after law school. The case that put her on the map was the Atlanta Public Schools cheating scandal.
Another story that caught our attention today is a massive cheating scandal in Atlanta's public schools. It matters far beyond that city because the alleged cheating involved the same sort of standardized tests used all over the country. Most surprising in the cheating scandal, it's not the students, but 178 principals and teachers who were involved. 56 schools were investigated, and cheating was found in 44. That is nearly 80%.
See, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations found that the scores on the standardized test from the Atlanta Public Schools were not adding up. The increase in scores for the 2009 school year were not statistically probable compared to the much lower scores of previous years. The GBI investigation revealed 44 of the 56 schools in the Atlanta public school system had cheated on those standardized tests by correcting answers entered by students. 178 educators were accused of being complicit in the cheating scandal, but only 35 educators were actually indicted by the state of Georgia via the Georgia RICO statute. Keep that in mind, Georgia RICO statute. We will hear that multiple times throughout this video. The superintendent of the Atlanta Public Schools, Beverly Hall, was at the center of this indictment. The lead prosecutor was none other than Fani Willis, and this was one of her first big cases. The bulk of the trial took place from 2014 to 2015, and Willis was able to convict 9 of the 12 educators who took the case to trial, each one being convicted of racketeering charges and sent to prison. This case led the black community in Atlanta to be divided. While some praised Fani Willis for standing up for students, most people accused Willis of turning her back on black educators, sending them to prison, and all in the name of advancing her own career. One of the defendants, Shawnee Robinson, called the trial a witch hunt and accused Fani Willis of being, quote, the ringleader of a lengthy theatrical production, end quote. She said it was filled with absurdities and that the media ate it up. Robinson also alleges that some of her fellow teachers were pressured to offer false accusations in order to charge and convict educators of cheating. And I gotta be honest, man, I'm inclined to agree with the sentiment that all of this was totally unnecessary. At the end of the day, these are teachers trying to get their students to pass a standardized test mandated by the government. We all know how little these tests matter in the grand scheme of life for students once they leave school. Is cheating a good thing? Of course not. I'm not saying that. But does it warrant prison time? Absolutely not. I can't view Fani Willis as some sort of hero for locking up teachers. I totally feel like this case was simply a way for Fani to garner media attention and make it look like she's a no-nonsense, tough-on-crime sort of lawyer. These sort of blockbuster cases are great for the career, and it's right out of the playbook of other well-known lawyers trying to make a name for themselves, but I'll speak more on that later because this will not be the last time Fani is accused of using big cases for personal gain. Also, while doing research on this video, I learned that this cheating scandal is currently being turned into a movie soon, which I thought was very interesting. The next big case headed by Fani was the infamous Donald Trump election interference RICO, which began in August of 2021. Fani and the state of Georgia accused Trump of heading a criminal racketeering enterprise to change the outcome of the presidential election in the state of Georgia.
Today, based on information developed by that investigation, a Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals with violations of Georgia law arising from a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in this state.
I'm not going to go into detail about this case because it's still ongoing and so much has been said about it already, but I do want to highlight a couple of interesting things. The first being the obvious. Fani, once again, is using the Georgia RICO statute to bring charges against people in a very high profile case. This is the second big blockbuster case of her career, and she is using the Georgia RICO statute again, back to back. And the second thing I want to bring up is the messy entanglement she had with lead prosecutor Nathan Wade. See, in January of 2021, Willis became the district attorney of Fulton County after winning the election in November of 2020. With this position, Fani was able to hire Nathan Wade on November 1st, 2021, as a special prosecutor in the Trump election interference RICO. On November 2nd, literally the following day, Nathan Wade files for divorce from his wife, Jocelyn. What do these things have to do with one another? Well, Nathan Wade and Fani Willis were in a romantic relationship, but they both claim that relationship didn't start until after Willis had hired Wade. Many individuals involved with the case felt that Willis benefited financially by hiring Nathan Wade. Wade was paid over $650,000 for his work on the Trump case, money which he then spent to take Fani Willis on vacation, allegedly. Fani was also served a subpoena for a deposition by Nathan Wade's ex-wife Jocelyn in regard to their divorce. So obviously, Jocelyn felt like Fani played some kind of role in Nathan Wade choosing to file for divorce. I mean, if your spouse filed for divorce the day after they were hired by a person that they would end up in a public relationship with shortly after, you would probably be like, what's going on here? Something's not adding up with you two. And Fani was not trying to have this deposition either. She filed an order of protection to try to avoid giving that deposition. You have to wonder what she was afraid of having come out. You would think if she had nothing to hide in regards to their relationship, she would just set the record straight. We're all adults here. Fani and Nathan definitely had something going on before she hired him and before he filed for divorce from his wife Jocelyn. Scandalous. Here's a clip where Wade makes the claim he didn't engage in a relationship with Fani until early 2022, but those claims have been refuted by others. Take a look.
When did your romantic relationship with Miss Willis begin?
2022.
When in 2022?
Early 2022.
So you were appointed in November of 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
And your relationship started early. What's early? January? February?
Around March.
Around March. But you two met at an October 2019 judicial conference, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You have no doubt that their romantic relationship was in effect from 2019 until the last time you spoke with her?
No doubt.
Did you observe them do things that are common among people having a romantic relationship?
Yes.
Such as, can you give us an example?
Hugging, kissing, with affection.
All before November 1st of 2021, correct?
Yes.
When asked about the relationship, Wade stated that relationships are as, quote, American as apple pie, end quote, and that he wanted to put the relationship on hold during the case, but the feelings got, quote, so strong that, you start to want to do things that are none of the public's concern, end quote. Things got so questionable that the Fulton County Commissioner sent Fani a letter demanding documents as to ascertain whether or not county funds had been used by Wade to buy gifts and plane tickets for Fani. There's even a rumor, it's just a rumor, but there's a rumor out there that Wade pursued Willis specifically to get the special prosecutor position on this RICO case, but who knows how true that is. This situation caused major problems for the election interference RICO as Donald Trump motioned for Fani Willis and Nathan Wade to be removed from the case. And ultimately, that is exactly what happened. Both ended up not being on the case, with Wade resigning from the case in March of 2024 and Fani being removed from the case by the appeals court in December of the same year. It truly is absurd that you have a big shot lawyer like Fani who is taking on the president, yet she can't keep her hormones under control while there is such an important job to do. Again, it does not appear as if justice is the primary goal of this case. If it was, she wouldn't have been moving so sloppily by hiring lovers to be special prosecutors, getting in the middle of marriages, and stealing money from the state to finance vacations and shit. Allegedly. The final case I want to speak on is the one most of you know Fani Willis from, which is, of course, the YSL RICO. That statement alone is kind of wild to me because this is a prosecutor who brought charges against the goddamn president of the United States of America. Yet most of you have paid more attention to the trial of a rapper than the former, which I find hilarious and a little bit sad, but it is what it is. I'm going to try not to get into excessive detail when discussing this case simply because it's been beat to death in these YouTube streets. It's also unnecessary for the purpose of this video. As I'm sure you all know, on May 9th, 2022, Fani Willis in the state of Georgia indicted that boy Young Thug and 27 of his closest compadres on various charges like robbery, murder, and illegal drug and gun possession. That's right. Fani Willis would use the Georgia RICO statute for the third consecutive time, man. She three-peated like Michael Jordan. This case garnered massive international media attention, but not much else. Almost everyone walked away from this case with no prison time, including the main suspect, Young Thug, who pleaded guilty, though many people feel he would have beaten the case entirely had he just waited like other defendants on the case. This is largely due to a lack of evidence and because basically the entirety of the case being dependent upon the statements given by the star witness, Lil Woody, statements he gave to police in years past. Once Woody recanted all of his statements, the case fell apart. Woody also stated that Fani Willis's office once told him that he would not be prosecuted if he lied while on the stand. It seems Fani was not concerned about concrete evidence and solid testimonies. Nothing would stop her from trying YSL for crimes, even if those crimes were totally made up. YSL Mondo, a co-founder of the YSL clique, stated in a DJ Vlad interview that when he saw the indictments come down, many of the individuals charged really had nothing to do with anything illegal. It seems as if Fani charged anyone who had slightly anything to do with YSL, but not YSL Mondo. He somehow ducked the entire RICO despite having been heavily active in the group's activities. Mondo is also a convicted felon. If Fani was charging random individuals in the YSL RICO, why would she not charge a major member with rank like Mondo? Well, as it turns out, Mondo had previously utilized Fani Willis's legal services in the past. In 2019, Fani served as Mondo's defense attorney in an aggravated assault case. Mondo states that the Fani Willis that represented him was very different from the Fani he saw in the media during the YSL trials, saying, quote, "She's almost like not really street, but she understands what goes on, bro. She understands life to a certain degree. She ain't trying to take all these little black dudes down. She ain't that type of woman, man. I'm telling you, she's not." End quote. Fani herself stated that, quote, "When I represented him, he received 110% effort from me. I advocated for him with zeal. I tend to meet my clients where they are. I hope you understand what that means. I want to see him do amazing things with his life, and I hope that's where he's headed." I don't know about y'all, but it seems to me that Fani and Mondo may have had a little something extra going on, a little attorney-client privilege, if you will. And I'm not the only person to feel that way. Rumors have swirled that Fani and Mondo engaged in some kind of romantic relationship. DJ Vlad even asked Mondo about these rumors during their interview. Mondo denied these rumors with the shit-eating grin. Take a look.
Well, there was rumors the two of you were having a romantic relationship.
Hell nah, man. Nah. I mean, she's a nice looking lady now, but I ain't never did nothing with this lady, man. If I did, I don't care saying it. I don't mind saying, yeah, I fucked Miss Willis. But nah, man, I ain't had nothing going on with this lady.
There was a rumor that her and Nut had a romantic relationship.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about that. I don't even know where the hell people got that from. And I'm still trying to figure out, is it true? I don't know. But people make up all type of shit.
Right, Mondo. We totally believe you. Mondo isn't the only man involved in the YSL dilemma that has been rumored to engage romantically with Fani either. There were also rumors that she had a romantic relationship with Donovan Nut Thomas as well. Nut was a high-ranking Blood member who was reportedly murdered at the command of Young Thug, and this was brought up multiple times during the trial. Now, Young Thug's father has made claims that Fani dated Nut at one point, and as you all saw, DJ Vlad would also ask Mondo about these rumors as well. We'll never know if that's factual, but I wouldn't be surprised. It tracks with Fani's behavior. She loves attention, and I, for one, don't believe she would object to any attention being paid to her, even if the person giving her that attention was a certified street general, but that's just me. What we do know is that these rumors of inappropriate and or unprofessional relationships constantly follow Fani everywhere she goes. I'm inclined to believe where there's smoke, there's fire. All right, y'all, we've gone through the three major cases of Fani Willis's career. First, I want to thank all of you that have made it to the end of this video. It really does mean a lot to me. But what conclusions can we draw about Fani as a person from these cases? Well, I think it's pretty clear. Fani is a pick-me type female. She loves attention and she will do absolutely anything to have the spotlight on her. She goes after these big targets that she knows will result in media attention, and she uses the Georgia RICO statute to create these cases. That's important because a RICO doesn't need a ton of hard evidence to charge people with. It was created by Rudy Giuliani to bring down the New York mob. Many mobsters were notoriously difficult to charge because they were smart enough to never actually commit major crimes themselves. Instead, they would have their underlings commit these crimes for them. So the RICO statute just needs people to say that someone is committing crimes or ordering them. Conspiracy is at the root of most RICOs, and conspiracies simply require statements, a person alleging that you plan to commit a crime, and what they call an overt action, which is just doesn't have to be a crime, but an action the prosecution can say that action was done in furtherance of the crime. So for example, if I'm a police officer and you have a buddy and I talk to your buddy and your buddy says, hey, Joe Blow is planning on breaking into houses. He agreed with me to go break into houses. I got his statement. The only thing I need now for conspiracy is just to catch you committing some sort of overt action, which could be something as simple as going to Ace's Hardware or Lowe's to buy an axe. I got somebody saying you agreed to go break the law, to break into houses, and you went to a hardware store to buy an axe that I can say you were going to use to break into houses. The nature of a RICO allowed Fani to charge a ton of high-profile individuals, which resulted in the blockbuster cases and headlines she sought out. But what are the outcomes? A bunch of nothing, mostly. Of the 3 RICO cases, none of the main targets ever went to prison. The main target of the Georgia Public Schools cheating scandal was the superintendent of the Atlanta Public Schools, and she passed away during the trial. Donald Trump is the main target of the ongoing Georgia election interference RICO, and that man is not only free, but has recently become the president again. And of course, we all know that Young Thug is free, even though he pled guilty to a lesser charge. This is because Fani repeatedly brings weak cases to trial. Justice is never the primary objective of any of these cases. Of the 3 RICOs, the one that resulted in the most convictions was the public school cheating scandal. She sent a bunch of educators to prison. And for what? Do any of you really believe she did it for the good of Atlanta students? I certainly hope not. She did it for the same reason she brought all those other weak cases to trial. It's good for the career. See, there's a term for lawyers like this. They're called prosecutor politicians. These prosecutors constantly go after big fish like mobsters and politicians and rappers because it looks good on the resume. Rudy Giuliani is the most famous of these prosecutor politicians, and Fani Willis is copying his playbook down to the letter. The only problem is she hasn't been very successful in convicting most of the big fish she goes after. Not only that, she tends to engage in unprofessional and sometimes unlawful behavior while trying these cases. In the Trump RICO, she was ordered to pay $20,000 to Judiciary Watch for lying about not possessing documents showing communication with the U.S. House Select Committee concerning the January 6th Washington, D.C. attack. Also concerning the Trump RICO, Willis was recently ordered to pay $54,000 in attorney fees for violating the Georgia Open Records Act. Of course, we know about her inappropriate relationships with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade and Lil Woody, claiming Willis's office told him it was okay if he lied on the stand in the YSL RICO. And we can't forget about the persistent rumors of other romantic relationships with street-related individuals like YSL Mondo and Donovan Nutt Thomas. All of this paints a picture of an attention-starved prosecutor who will go to any lengths to keep the spotlight on herself. This is astounding to me because she's so successful. Why would someone who has achieved so much still have a look at me sort of attitude? It's because she is the epitome of a pick-me type female. No amount of attention will ever be enough for someone like her. In a Facebook post, Fani wrote, quote, "No makeup, no filters, just me. Most people would not want my journey. It's not a glamorous life. I work more than I play. I am not Instagram fine, constantly restricting food and stay fussing with my trainer. My kids pretty, but they ain't perfect. But God's perfect gift to me. I am so thankful to God for my non-traditional family, crazy friends, and all their interesting and entertaining escapades. My relationship successes and goodbyes. My hard life lessons and my wins." End quote. If this doesn't reveal exactly who Fani is and where her mind is, I don't know what will. She's complaining about how hard her life is, yet simultaneously bragging about how great her life is. She says she works more than she plays, yet we have proof of her playing while at work. She also is obviously very obsessed with how people view her physical appearance. And how the hell can you have multiple relationship successes? If you break up with someone, the relationship was a failure. It didn't work out. So unless your significant other passes away, you would really only have one relationship success in your entire life, and that will be with the person you stay with for the rest of your life. So I'm confused as to how Fani is classifying any failed relationships as successes. Just a pet peeve. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing something, because that comment made absolutely zero sense to me. But all in all, Fani presents herself as a very vain and selfish person addicted to the spotlight. My prediction is that Fani will run for some major political office in the state of Georgia, and that political career will end in controversy due to financial mismanagement, an inappropriate affair, or some other impropriety, because Fani is all gas and no brakes. Fani Willis will continue to chase attention and break all the rules while doing so because she simply can't help it. She's the queen of pick-me girls. Hey, it's me from the future. I forgot to add this while recording the video originally. The longest case in Georgia state history used to be the Atlanta Public Schools cheating scandal case. And now it's the YSL RICO. Both of these are Fani's cases. So not only is she acting a fool and being unethical and unprofessional, but she's also taking up a lot of resources and costing taxpayers a lot of money, which I think is very important to add to the story as well. Well, that's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching this video, especially if you made it to the end. You are a real one. It means the world to me. Please leave a comment because I legitimately love arguing with strangers on the internet. I always have. I am a stone-faced ape, and I'll get it with y'all next time. Peace.